Well, greetings again, everybody. Chaplain Joe back at you here again. I just want to give you another teaching on the series of Master Your Mind with the topic of don't judge your future by your past. I'm coming from Matthew 13, verses 57 and 58 from the Amplified, and it says, "And they took offense at him," talking about Jesus. "They were repelled and hindered from acknowledging his authority and be caused to stumble. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and in his own house. And he did not do many powers of work there because of their unbelief, their lack of faith in the divine mission of Jesus." See, when Jesus went back to his hometown in Nazareth, he was doing all kinds of miracles and healings pretty much all over the places he went. But he didn't do many powers of work in Nazareth because they did not believe in his testimony of who he was. They were judging his future by his past. They grew up with him. He worked with wood and stuff like that. So they saw him as that carpenter's kid and not who he really was, the Messiah, the Son of God. So therefore they were hindering their own miracles because of their unbelief, because they believed in who he used to be or what they saw him to be as opposed to what he really is. And it says here, they were stiff-necked and would not accept a new reality of a preconceived notion. Saints, when we become to God, we have to realize when we read the Word of God, we can't be so quick to come to God with our preconceived notions of what His Word is saying or who and what God is. Because as we read the Word of God, we'll see sometimes that God will change our minds and how we believe and how we view Him. So once that happens, we got to come into agreement with what the Word of God says and not our own preconceived notion. So the question is, though, will you allow God to change your mind? Or will you come to God closed-minded and not allow Him to change what you already are? If we want to grow in God, saints, we cannot come to God with a closed mind. We have to come to God believing what the Word says He is, and if we have anything that's wrong, change the way we think to what the Word of God thinks, as opposed to coming to Him with a closed mind. With that being said, real quick, I want to leave you with what the Apostle Ron Carpenter said years ago. He said, when God shows up and it doesn't look like God, will you still receive it? And there's many examples of this in the Bible. When Jesus came, the children of Israel wanted a war hero to deliver them from the Roman Empire. But Jesus came on a donkey in Jerusalem and said, love your enemies. So when Jesus came, a lot of people didn't receive Him because when God showed up, it didn't look like God when He came. The same thing happened also too with Moses. Moses was in the house of Egypt, and he actually slayed an Egyptian before he fled. So when he came back years later, a lot of the children of Israel didn't receive him because he was raised in the house of the Egyptians, so they might have seen him as a traitor or as a foreigner. So when their deliverer showed up, i.e. when God showed up in the form of Moses, they didn't receive Moses right away because Moses didn't come looking like God or the way they thought God should have came. So the question is, if God shows up, but if God doesn't show up the way you think He should, will you still believe it or will you reject it? Will you hinder your blessing because God did not show up the way that you thought? So saints, as we think about this message, do not come to God with preconceived notions and closed-mindedness. Come to Him open-minded. That way you can fully receive His goodness. I thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.